You're listening to Legends Library. Now, here's your host, Liisa and Kyle Rawlings.
Hi, everybody. I'm Liisa.
And I'm Kyle.
I'm Katherine.
And I'm Corinthia.
And you're listening to and watching Legends Library. We are a podcast dedicated to the Legends line of the Star Wars books and the expanded universe. Woo! And we have two guests tonight because we are celebrating the women of legend. So we're going to go through authors and all the amazing butt-kicking female characters in Star Wars Legends because there's so many. And I thought, why not ask these two amazing people who we both know to come on and to talk about them. So, Katherine, first, if we can get a little bit of an update about Legends Con, and then Corinthia is going to talk a bit more about the tickets, guys.
Yeah, so last time I was on here, I think we didn't have, I don't think we'd announced our first guest yet, even.
No.
Yeah, so we have so far signed on Sean Stewart, who wrote Yoda Dark Rendezvous, Karina Bechko, who was the writer for Legacy Volume 2, and drumroll, Randy Stradley, which I am so excited for. We don't have time to list everything that he did with Star Wars. We'll be here all night. But yes, so that's super exciting. Yeah, Kyle gestures to the entire collection of comics behind him. Yeah. Yeah, so that's all really great. Things are chugging along. We are doing ticket sales soon, which Corinthia will talk about. But yeah, new and exciting things are happening every day.
And just to remind everyone, it's September 9th and 10th in Burbank, California.
Yes.
Yeah. So tickets will be on sale hopefully very soon. We've been working pretty tirelessly on getting that ready for everybody. We will be running an early bird special for the first month or so, maybe 2 months. So you want to get on it quickly because we're going to have some pretty good prices for you guys. So stay tuned and keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah. And there's still the coffee campaign that's going on, guys. If you want to check that out, there's an early bird kind of in there as well. And plus, little rewards that you can get, which would be pretty cool too. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to shout out the subscriber benefits on that because we only have 4 people signed up for that so far. And if you are subscribing at $10 or more or month, you get an exclusive art piece or sticker, that sort of thing, designed by Arakel. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Punch It Chewy Press.
Yeah.
He's making cool little Legends art pieces every month for those who are subscribing, so definitely worth it.
Which is awesome. Like, guys, how often can you get Legend stuff anymore? You can't, so this is the way to get it. Through us. I don't know, I'm so excited. I mean, I can't help but talk all the time about it now. People, my friends are just getting a little like, okay, that's nice, pat on head. So it's not that I've planned my outfits, but let's be real. We've all planned our outfits at this point.
I know what I'm wearing.
Yeah. So, well, you guys are going to be in costume. Kyle, do you know what you're going to be wearing?
I have a couple ideas, not nearly as definitive and confident as you sounded there, but I have a couple ideas.
Okay.
Yes.
And Kyle, could you give us a bit of an update now on Supernatural Encounters? How it's going?
So far so good. There was some confusion with the website. Joe addressed all that.
Yeah.
There a hard drive failure, to put it simply, and so that got out of the way now, and we're expecting April for everything being shipped out to everyone.
Super stoked for it. Super stoked.
Yep. So it's coming. Yeah.
Yeah, Kyle's been pretty secretive about everything. And I always try to get a little bit every time. I'm like, just tell a little something. I am going to pick on you today for one of the first characters we're going to cover because timeline, I do things by timeline. So But I thought we would kind of go into the authors first of Legend, because there's so many amazing female authors. So I thought we would start with our favorite, Jander Sema, who we really want to come to the con. Like, please come. If you're listening, please come. Like we're celebrating,
Tag her.
Yeah, exactly. We're
Tag her in the
celebrating.
video link.
We haven't officially invited
see
her
what
yet, guys.
happens.
We
Yeah.
haven't like.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
this is kind of
We're,
like
we're focusing on like the local guests first.
Yeah.
Remember?
yeah, but you know, I think Patrick and everybody, Brian, I think everybody would go along with it if we just kind of like,
I mean,
you know, at least put her in the link, and you know,
Yeah.
if she happens to see this video and it's just like, I'll
Yeah.
settle for
I mean,
that.
We're all
Randy
calling her out.
Stradley emailed us, so
Yeah.
I know,
Exactly.
right?
we can
Which was amazing.
That was so
hope,
awesome.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, listeners, Randy
So-
Stradley actually contacted us to participate. It wasn't us reaching out to him. We were all just like, what? What just happened?
Well, it's good that he did too, because we could not find his contact info, and that's
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
he reached out to us. He said he was like, "Yeah, I know that I'm like not easy to contact these days," and it was like, "Yeah, we tried to find you. Like I
Yeah.
managed to stalk a bunch of other people online to find their email addresses, but he was a digital ghost." Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Hmm.
still stalking some other guys, so there will be more coming down the line, and we
Yes.
got more things
Yes.
announced coming. But you know, again, today we're focusing on the women's of Legends, and because we're celebrating International Women's Day, so why not? Why not? Let's talk about this. So, going back to Jander Sema, so I mean, what really can we say about her other than the fact that she did Legacy and Dawn of the Jedi comics, which are phenomenal
love those.
comics. Like, she wrote and penciled it. Like, her talent is just phenomenal. Like, what are some things that you like about her work?
I really like. I mean, my favorite being This Is Me in my little Jedi box as usual. I just love the Republic era stuff that she did. All the Jedi series.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are fun.
I was reading the one-shot comic that she did with when Han Solo met Quinlan. And it's such a funny little story of him still being like, the Force isn't real, even though he just witnessed Quinlan Voss like do all these Force tricks and like save him and like find his lightsaber and kill some guys. He's like, yeah, whatever. Like,
Typical Han.
typical Han, like
Yeah.
still the denier. Like,
But like, yeah, Jan's art is. I actually was just talking to Patrick about this. Patrick's another person working on Legends Con and Supernatural Encounters, blah blah blah. Jan had posted on her public Facebook a like one of the Facebook memories kind of things of a page from Dawn of the Jedi, and the pencil work on it is just so amazing. And Patrick and I were having a conversation yet again about how we would love to see like just the pencil version of these comics published at some point,
Yeah.
because the detail is just so amazing.
yeah. Does she sell any of her like just originals or?
I don't know.
Yeah, look at that.
Um,
Look at that beauty right there.
Yeah. Issue zero.
Yeah.
First print.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Figure just to celebrate. Yeah.
And like especially with Legacy, like it in itself has a huge following. And like where would we be without it? I don't know. Like we got that
Yeah.
continuation of like Kate Skywalker, which is really awesome. But
They
yeah.
ended a ship war by having it be Solo fell.
Yeah.
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 But she also
It's one of those blessings we got before, everything wrapped up. That was definitely a blessing to receive. There are such things.
yeah. Didn't she also kind of create Ayla Secura kind of like I can't remember if it was she was in the movie first and then she created the character mostly or
Ayla was from the comics first, I believe.
Yeah.
It was Quinlan who was in episode 1 first, and then they like
on Tatooine.
made him an actual character. Yeah.
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 But yeah, Ayla is from, and that's kind of every now and then when I hear people arguing that like, oh, like Lucas never paid any attention to what was going on in the books and comics. It's like Ayla, like
Right.
he
Everyone
grabbed
she
Ayla
celebrated.
and
She
yoinked her
celebrated
in,
for
like,
that cause.
Yeah. Exactly. Like even all
Yeah, there's photos of him on set with the EU guide, like
That's cool.
you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Coruscant, does Coruscant mean anything? Just saying,
Funny
right?
story with that.
Thanks, Tim. Like
I heard that the reason that the pronunciation changed on Coruscant from how it had been in the audiobooks before Phantom Menace was that like poor little Jake Lloyd, and being a kid, like could not pronounce it the way that it had been pronounced in the audiobooks, and that's what led to that change.
How was it pronounced originally?
I don't remember because
Like,
it's not like I was listening to them at that point because I was a 5-year-old.
wasn't it just Coruscant?
I thought it was Coruscant.
Yes.
Oh, really?
That sounds right.
Oh,
Yeah.
from the
Which,
okay.
as you can
Forgive
see,
me.
a small child would have a lot of problems trying to pronounce that.
Yeah, those are some
Okay.
crunchy syllables.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe he wasn't the chosen one. Oh, sorry, you can't say that right now.
That's
Sorry.
not
Sorry.
fair. No.
Yeah.
No, there's
be
still
nice.
sensitive news out there about Mr. Lloyd, so we'll just
Yeah,
I
Star
won't
Wars
make any
definitely
jokes
ruined
about
that kid's life. So
Yeah.
yeah, be nice.
I'm not gonna add to it any more than a little bit of a
Yeah.
joke, but forgive me.
Hopefully he's doing okay.
But
I mean, it just sounds right, Coruscant instead of Coruscant. Like, who wants to live on a capital
Yeah,
word
but-
scant? Like, it reminds me of poop. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, that's where my
And
brain goes.
and I
I
mean-
don't know.
Well, now I'm wondering like how their plumbing works on this city planet like that. Like, where does their wastewater
Oh,
go?
God,
But
I don't even
anyways,
wanna
Goes
think
to
about
level
that.
zero.
we're getting way off track.
Yeah, we're
Just
here to talk
go.
about women, and we're talking about poop. I'm sorry.
Just
So,
girly
waste-
things.
are we talking about-
what is Coruscant's plumbing like?
Oh, it's the rocket gun, isn't it? Isn't that in the beginning of Rogue Planet when
They shoot it out.
when isn't it when Anakin's like, because there's this whole thing, he's like in the basically. Excuse me. You have to.
You can
I'll put a
think
blaster bolt over that. We have sensors for those. Don't worry, everybody. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I do.
Hey. Anyway, yeah, mark that. And forgive me, I just definitely got lost. But anyway, yeah, Rogue Planet, when the book opens and he's in that cannon and it fires off the wastes into the suns.
Really? Oh man,
Yeah,
I
I
barely
don't remember that part, but I believe
That's ringing a dim bell.
yeah, and it's one of those. If it's been a while since I've read it, but all the same, like Obi-Wan's just kind of like, I think he remembers, so it's kind of like, oh, you were down there again, like you're supposed to be studying, and you're down there playing chicken with parts of the world gun, whatever it was called. I cannot remember off the top of my head, but yeah, it shot off all the waste into Coruscant's suns.
I think
So
maybe
just to
I was
kinda
too
finish all that
naive
out.
to remember that. Like, it just didn't compute in my
I
brain.
mostly remember the spore creatures that like attach themselves. That's yeah. Anyways,
Anyway, moving on.
We digress.
Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So
Might
I
be some
thought-
hard editing in that line right
Yeah,
there.
no, I'm leaving it in. So our next author, I know Katherine is probably better to talk about this author more than anyone. So Jude Watson or Judy Blundell, who did the Jedi Apprentice series, Quest, and The Last of the Jedi. Creator of Siri Tachi, and of course Barris, who's your
my fave.
your favorite, and
Not a girl, but yes, my fave.
yeah,
One of my faves. Yeah, well, and she also did a bunch of other young reader books, like all the episode 1 journals and all that. Like
Mhm.
at one point I counted, and I'm pretty sure she has more, like if we just go off of books, I think she has more than Ryder Whittams. So I think that she's the most prolific Star Wars author in terms of number of books, but I could be wrong on
Wow.
that because, we trying to find all, trying to count all of those, we could be off on that count a little bit. But yeah, one of the things that I really love about her books is, even though like each series is definitely, like the main characters of it are not women, Jedi Apprentice is Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, Jedi Quest is Obi-Wan and Anakin, and then Last of the Jedi focuses on Ferris primarily. The vast majority of every character that she introduces that's a new character is a woman, be it villains and side characters, other lead characters, which is just so cool. Like there's some really awesome like female villains in those books.
Yes.
Jenna
The
Ann Arbor
scientist.
especially is
Yes.
just like such a funky little weirdo. Like, so I really enjoy that. And like you mentioned Siri, but I also really love Bant, who is Obi-Wan's Mon Cal like bestie, kind of little sister to him, and Tal, who is Qui-Gon's friend, basically the only person who can make him shut up and sit down. So, you know, the events of Phantom Menace and everything, we can just blame on the fact that Tal was no longer around to be like, stop it. But yeah, there's so many, and like I love how she also took characters that we see in the movies like Adi Gallia and really fleshed her out more than pretty much anything else has. Like she's in the comics somewhat, but you know, the most that we see her is in
Jedi
Jedi
Power
Apprentice.
Battles. PlayStation, you remember?
Yeah, so I really I really love her books. She's awesome.
I think she has some real depth to her storylines as well that we just don't really grasp because they're, you know, considered like young adults and not stuff that
They're not even young adult, they're middle grade.
Yeah,
like these are
like
Scholastic chapter
Scholastic.
books.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
she's the one who did the death of Yaddle, and everyone don't forget that she did the death of Yaddle because everyone now is like, oh my god, Yaddle died, like because of, well, we're not going to talk about that, but
her books are brutal, frankly.
Yeah.
Like what happens like with Tal, like spoilers, for those of you who haven't read out books that came out in the early 2000s, like she ends up blind, which is a really interesting, like so often Star Wars does not really like spend any time on disability. We just like hack people's limbs off and then like they're fine.
and they're healed. Yeah.
But she's one of the few times that like it's a character really has to like deal with this, because Tal is on a mission and she is blinded by torture, I guess. Like it's the details are a little bit vague because it is Scholastic chapter books, but like the best I can suss out is like probably some sort of like acid burns on her eyes because it talks about like scarring. So like dark. But then like part of like Tal really has to like grow as a character because she really doesn't want anybody's help with anything ever. That's just sort of who she is as a person, like having to like keep her identity that way, but still like realize, you know, like she does need to, like she has to change some things in her life because she is now blind. So yeah, it's just there's a lot of really like nuanced characters. And I really I would love I know she is primarily like a middle grade YA author. But I think it would have been really fun if the books had been YA rather than middle grade, because we would have gotten a little bit more depth to them. Like I reread them now, and I still love them, but it's just like, oh man, like I remember this being like so much longer. Like it's just like such a little like little chunk of something, and it's like this could have definitely been like fleshed out more. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still searching.
Did you have a favorite book?
Oh gosh, no.
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 You didn't have a favorite? Nah. Okay.
I can't even really pick a favorite.
Series.
I can't even pick a favorite series really. Like
No.
It's they're all good. I guess no, I can't pick a favorite.
I think one of the crazy complexities that she wrote was the time where she witnesses Anakin kill that slaver, and that's Siri. And, you know, she doesn't really voice her opinion at that point, which kind of, you know, what would that have done had she done that? And, you know, would things have changed? Would Obi-Wan have listened? Like, you know,
Anakin really blows up her entire operation within like 5 minutes. Well, that's really like the whole thing with Anakin, like the dynamic between Ferris and Anakin, like that's they don't get along, and a lot of that is like, and some people, like criticize her and Ferris for this, of like Ferris, being like too like all-knowing kind of thing or whatever, but it's not like he's honestly, he's that like AP kid with anxiety, honestly. And it's he doesn't like Anakin because Anakin just screws around all the time, like Ferris is very dedicated to being a Jedi and his studies and all that kind of stuff, and Anakin's, off playing with poop tubes. Um, but there's so much, like when Ferris leaves the Jedi Order after everything happens with Dara, who, for those of you who aren't familiar, basically I would mostly blame Anakin, but that's my bias. Another Padawan gets killed because of some shenanigans that I would mostly blame on Anakin. But he and Ferris leaves the Order because of that, just because he's like needs to sort some stuff out personally for himself. And he has a conversation with Obi-Wan before he leaves that's, basically like, Anakin has issues, you need to address this. And I think that makes a lot of sense within, like within universe, like Anakin does have issues. And like, maybe things would have been a little bit differently if they'd been addressed in a different way. Not that I blame Obi-Wan or, the Jedi for their own genocide or anything like that, but yeah, it would be interesting to explore if Anakin had a little bit more consequences.
Yeah. Well, I definitely kind of blame the Jedi for their own downfall because they were just too blind to see the Sith Lord in front of them. So that's their own kind of fault.
That's a whole other conversation for another day.
Yeah, let's not go off on a tangent.
Did y'all like Jedi Quest though? Yeah. I got a hardcover version. I've never seen one before, but I got it by accident. It just like came through, and it was like, it's like the only turtleback that I've ever seen. For I didn't know that they actually existed until. So now I'm on a quest, and it's like
I think
psychotic.
that might be a library
quest?
binding, is what that
Yeah,
might
I figured. I figured as much, and I was like, all right, well, but now I have to get all of them because I'm like that.
I think that's the one.
I'll see you in 15 years when I get them all.
I think that one that you have is the Nest of Gundarks that's referenced in Attack of the Clones. I'm pretty sure that's the one where they fall into that Nest of Gundarks.
Oh.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome.
She did a wonderful job tying everything together. I don't know. I read those books coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So it was more just to like have them now. I haven't read them in years, but like I read them all pretty religiously when I was growing up. Episode 1 was biblical. It's so cheesy now. I know that a lot of that kind of stuff. But oh my god.
That's why we're here, guys.
Yeah.
Let's be real. We've all read everything 1,000 times.
Yeah.
I just can't help it.
But who's the next author we have in mind here?
So kind of a heavy hitter one, as Kyle likes to say. I thought we would talk a little bit about Karen Travis. Kyle, if you want to kind of lead about her.
Karen? Yeah.
Well,
Karen's
everyone knows
amazing.
her. Yeah. English author.
And Karen is most famous, of course. We all know Republic Commando series, other series as well. But she's, and of course, the smiter of Mara Jade.
Yes,
of course.
I wanted to bring that up.
Yes. And also, though, the heart and soul of Mandalorian culture that has blown up into the phenomenon that it is now. It's like, actually, that's all Karen, minus the nonsense that they put over it.
To be fair.
Not what they've done with it. I didn't mean it like that. I'm just saying it existing in the first place, Karen.
Yeah.
So she humanized the entire army of clones, and that was the big difference, right? That was I think that her when she left the Star Wars world, she's most famous for that because they overwrote her ideas over the course of 5 books just for that. But that was the theory of like, okay, so a bunch of mercenaries, the Coeur d'Val, right? Something of that nature off the top of my head. But they were the ones who personally, like Django, trained all of the clones and gave them culture. So they were people. And then, the Clone Wars is just like, well, there was a chip, and
Yeah.
so that was the whole point. And then, Cal Scarata, the whole nine. But
I
so
love Cal Scarata.
yeah, and she really did a number as far as like anti-Jedi, but I'm surprised that people are resisting, because we love like Empire fans, like that's
Mhm.
okay. I did not understand why everyone was so upset about it.
We could.
They're like, oh,
I'm being quiet because I have nothing nice to say, but like,
What?
I know, I know.
we could
And
go
see,
off on this as to why.
And that's
it
what I mean.
was-
You find fans that are just as passionate as I am, and then you
Yeah.
have fans like Catherine, and it's just like they're either the same, but it's in reverse, or they're so quiet that they just like
Yeah.
they don't want to rock the boat. Because generally Karen's like pretty popular.
Let's be
But
real. I mean,
And then,
for me, like I adore her books, and she was a huge part of my inspiration for my Kenobi story that I've been writing. And I studied the language and made sure I get like things correctly because of hers. And so again, she's one of those authors for me that I just couldn't live without. And then unfortunately, like you said, she famously withdrew. But if you could go into kind of some of the little tidbits of what we would have gotten with that book, because she was writing the sequel of Imperial Commando.
yeah, it's on her website, under her Q&As. But she goes on. It's hard to remember it all offhand.
I wrote it
But
down.
she finishes everybody's tale. Yeah, I know you have your notes that nobody can read, but they look very detailed. And I was looking at it, I was zooming, I was like, I cannot sit here and try to. But anyway, it is appreciated that you shared that, and I got the gist of it. But so I figured I would just go off of memory, right? I'm sorry, I talked about your notes and I got lost track. Where were we at?
We're talking about what would have been in that story.
Oh yeah. So, the what is it, General Zay and Maze, if I remember correctly, one of the clone commanders. She said, I think, quote unquote, did they go off to be like a Starsky and Hutch kind of thing?
Yeah.
She had plans for them.
With Kina Ha, which I thought was really interesting. They go
Yeah.
with a Kaminoan.
Yeah, Delta and Omega get squared out. I'm not going to ruin it for everybody because they haven't actually, if they don't read the Q&A, it's just a Q&A, but she does kind of finish it for us. Yeah, and all the connections that come back later, in Legacy of the Force and even Fate of the Jedi, a lot of it kind of makes sense to me anyway, how the bloodline passed down.
Well, then,
and we get
Barden Jessic, don't forget him.
Right there. That's what, I don't want to give too much away for people who, because a lot of people don't even know that the resource is there.
Okay.
So it's like, yeah, it's
this
like
is a spoiler episode. Like, just say it.
Yeah, no, but it's a couple paragraphs, and she tells us what Imperial Commando 2 would have been. You just go to her website and check out her. It's either her frequently asked questions or commonly asked, whatever it is. Yeah, there you go.
Fine, I'm going to say it because you're not saying it. Barden Jessic, he marries Arla Fett there, who is Django's sister.
Yeah.
I just wanted
to so yeah, it ties all the Fets together too. It's pretty nice. It would have been a masterpiece, I think. And I'm still upset. The duologies and stuff, like they never made it to hardcover. They definitely shorted Karen when it comes to that, in my opinion. We didn't get Imperial Commando 2. There wasn't a hardcover for Imperial Commando, or what other one was? No, they got the rest of them. But.
Corinthia, are you a fan of Karen Traviss, or are you on the same side?
I haven't actually read a lot of the Republic Commando books or anything like that, because clones aren't really what I'm typically interested in. I'm very much like a telescopic view on only Sith. So yeah,
I get that. But she, like Kyle said, she really humanizes them, and she's just such a fantastic author that you get kind of like hooked on them. And then she has this one character, we're going to talk a bit about her later, Etain. Like, when that character dies, oh my gosh, I remember just bawling my eyes out like so hard.
And as far as Sith stuff, Corinthia, like they're on to Palps. They call them like
Yeah,
they
they
don't
call him
Palpy
Palps.
Baby.
Yeah.
I always call him Palps.
They call him
because of her.
Palps. I call him Palpy
Palps.
Baby now ever since that, just
Palpy.
because it's like, like Palpy. Anyway, but yeah, they figure it all out, and they figure out that all the projections, and it's just like the army can't be that big. This is all fluff. It's nonsense. Yeah, it's kind
Yeah.
of cool.
And they steal
Yeah.
a lot of money from the Empire too, which is really
Yeah.
funny. And they're like, okay, see ya. Like, we're going this way now. Like, yeah, they really outsmart
Yeah.
them. But
Kicked off Mandalore.
yeah.
hmm
But unfortunately, and she would have had a Boba Fett novel, and that was canceled too.
Hmm.
Yeah. So sad days for us.
Yep. Yeah, won't go any further than that, I suppose.
No.
Let's stay in the safe waters of the fandom here.
Yeah.
We treaded ever so lightly just by talking about her. I can still heal. I can feel Katherine like breathing right now.
Yeah, I thought we could
Are
kind of
you
go
okay?
into the Mara death when we talk about Mara, because we will eventually talk about her today. But
Yeah.
I don't want
Yeah, I guess we
everyone to
gotta get a
go.
move on, huh?
Yeah.
I guess we gotta get a move on here.
So let's talk a bit about Karen Miller. She's not an author who's done a lot of stuff, but we got someone who just perked up a bit.
Yes.
Clone Wars Gambit. You want to talk a bit about that?
I mean, yes, Clone Wars Gambit is fun, but Wild Space is more fun. Yeah, no,
Sure.
I love Clone Wars Gambit. It's I feel like we don't the way that I really like the way that she writes Anakin and Obi-Wan's relationship with each other. It is really like it just feels really real.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they have their disagreements with each other and stuff like that, but it really shows like how deeply they really care about each other, which is great. Um, and then Wild Space is just one of my favorites because it is so campy and I love it. And I love the artwork that came out of it of Bail Organa bridle carrying Obi-Wan like up a hill. That just makes me laugh every time I see it. And it's Corinthia, I'm sure you like it because they're spending time on
Oh,
a
yeah.
Sith planet.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, we've got like Sith voices torturing Obi-Wan and he's hallucinating and like,
Yeah.
you know,
That's what I'm about, man.
he's having a bad time. He's having a real bad time. But I also love I love Bail in that book so much too, because we don't often see him
Yes.
in his like full like, you know, I want to say a word that's a swear, so I can't say it, I guess. But like,
Oh, you can say it.
okay, when he's like full badass, like we don't usually
Badass
like we
is
see
fine.
him like we see him being awesome politically, but like him actually going and getting his hands dirty is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
like
like
that she did that.
his introduction really to the Sith and the Jedi is because like really like, you know, the majority of the Republic just depends on the Jedi to deal with all of their like a bunch of their problems. And Bail doesn't really fully, you know, even as a representative of a planet, doesn't fully understand just how much they're doing and how much this war is harming them. And he really has to see that firsthand. And, you know, just because the Sith are not common knowledge. And learning like just what, you know, like picking up that rock and seeing what's you know, like what's squirming around under there. And just the way that he rolls with it and really steps up. I think it's a great book for him.
Yeah.
And also I love his conversations with Breha, where like I don't know what it is, but like I don't remember what she says exactly, but like their hollow conversations are just really fun with each other. Yeah, I love that book.
Yeah, she definitely wanted to flush out Bail, because it's like, why did everyone trust him out of everyone to take Leia? Like, what is it like about this
Yeah.
man that you can allow the secret? So I think that's really cool that she made that decision and really did that. She has a short that I haven't read, and I'm really wanting to read it because they're in Star Wars Insider magazines, which I'm trying to get my hands on all of them. But she wrote about Miri Antilles, which is one of the other daughters of Wedge Antilles. Oh, okay. I was gonna
Yeah,
say, do you have it
they
right
have
there?
these great they have 2 collection books
Yeah.
right now. I wish that they like they're a mix of both Legends and Disney canon, and I really
Yeah.
wish
Yeah.
that they like kept
It's
them
just-
separate so that I could organize them on my bookshelves better. But
I
like,
was gonna say you can just take out the
Yeah.
pages, but oh,
And-
is that it?
yeah,
Okay.
Volume 3 is just the the High Republic, or right? Isn't that what they're doing right now?
yeah,
Yeah.
which like that makes sense to me, is like, you know, separate it by era and by flavor of canon, because my bookshelf is organized, like my Star Wars books are organized
Yeah,
by
put mine over there
Yeah.
because it's just
Legends versus Disney canon, and the Legends section is much bigger, and then it's chronological order.
Yeah.
Like new
I do it the same way.
yeah, New Jedi Order is up here because that's like the half of the bookshelf is New Jedi Order to like the rest of that
Mm.
type of canon, and then we have 2 shelves below for the Disney era of books. But yeah, I wish that because they have to like these sit in between awkwardly because I can't put them on either. Yeah,
I have
That annoys
anything
me.
Marvel, which is very little. I just buy the hardcovers that they put out of the Marvel
Mhm.
releases. That's all on the other shelf over there. I can't have them on. No.
I
No,
don't.
they were in there.
I
Somebody was
don't
talking
have enough
smack on one of our
bookshelves to
videos.
separate them completely like that.
Oh, you got
But
to,
anyways, we're getting kind of off topic. But
Sacrilege.
yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I don't think I've read that short by her either. I'll have to try to hunt that down.
It's in.
Or maybe it's in one of these.
Oh,
I have it written down, or nope. I sent it to our helper earlier, but I think it's in like 86 or 80 for some reason. But
Let's see if I can find it.
yeah, moving on though. I thought we'd talk just a little briefly about Martha Veitch. Obviously, wife, husband is Tom Veitch, who we all love and adore. They co-authored Tales to the Mos Eisley Cantina, the Hunter's Fate, the Greedo's Tale. It's such
Yeah.
a cute, twisted,
I
dark
love that
story.
one. Yeah.
And then it became a web strip. So I've actually did a short on this channel, guys, if you want to check it out. But yeah,
Mhm.
Corinthia, if you like it, if you want to talk a bit about
Yeah.
it.
It's kind of fresh on my mind because I read Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina recently, so I remember just really loving that the Greedo one in particular. So
Yeah. It's all about like when they find some ships and then he immediately
Mhm.
like, these are my ships. I found them. And it's like, and now he's a
Yeah.
criminal. Like, and he's like 12 or something in it, like already setting
Yeah.
himself up as like kind of a scumbag.
hmm
uh,
Yeah, no, it was really great.
Another author, and obviously Martha passed away last year, unfortunately. Another author I thought we would talk about briefly is Barbara Hambly. And Kyle, I know you're more of a fan of her books than I am.
Oh yeah, yeah. I wrote that. Remember, I wrote that paper for like a long time ago. I don't think we
Yeah.
ever got to it, but
No.
like, yeah, I really did like Barbara. Very strange novels, though.
Very strange. I mean,
Yes.
I first encountered Callista in as, Abeloth's also impersonation, and then discovering that she
Mhm.
was once a computer and Luke fell in love with her
Yeah.
and then took her spirit went to another Jedi.
Mhm.
Like I was like,
Very
what?
bizarre.
What am I reading?
Yeah.
Like this.
I
yeah.
had one of the weirdest encounters with another cosplayer at some point who I was talking about my Mara costume, and she went on this rant about how she's like the #1 Callista fan, and like we were back in the like Luke Skywalker ship war of that era, and I was just
Yeah.
like, whoa. It was a time.
Yeah. Well, I like that she uses the character Callista. So in Greek mythology, that's Callisto, one of Zeus's many lovers, who got punished and turned into a bear. And then when her son was about to shoot her in Greek mythology, they were changed into stars and put into the sky and became Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. So, we kind of see them all the time. And Barbara Hambly was like, "Hey, I like this character's name. I'm going to use it for Star Wars." And again, we've kind of talked about it all of us about how Greek mythology really plays a lot into Star Wars. You got to steal stories from somewhere, guys.
Yep.
Fate of the Jedi.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
The name Jason, like, come on. And Jason in Greek mythology
Yeah.
is an asshole as well. So it just like it really adds up. um, oh, I had a question here. Oh, I don't
Hmm.
know if this that as Mara fans, how do we feel about her, Barbara?
Sorry, Karen Travis.
Yeah, maybe I wrote that down in the wrong spot.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Barbara's probably like, huh? Just kidding. Just kidding.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
you like the Children of the Jedi book. And then yeah, she also did a story in Tales of Mos Eisley Cantina about, and then about Jabba's chef. So I like all these like Bantam authors, how they also like they did a book, but then they did all these short stories, and then it's like
Yeah.
all the same people in the Tales of stories. Let's talk a bit about Kathy Tyers, since we don't want to forget about her. Trusa Bakura. I have not read this book, so Kyle, if anyone knows more about this story, feel free to chat about it.
the end of the war.
Yeah. Which war?
Hmm.
The Star
Just did
Wars.
this one.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, right. I did read it. The NJO. Balance Point. Yeah. I've read Balance Point, but not.
Balance Point was great.
Yeah.
That was. I mean, that was when that's the one when Han and Leia are really coming to a point because right, isn't that because like Leia's like, all right, we understand that Anakin died, but like this is just crazy behavior, and he's. It was a really
You
good
need to
book.
get, yeah, you need to get your head on straight at this point.
Hmm.
She also wrote Ula's Tale, which is a sad short story about slave Ula, how Luke tries to free her, doesn't succeed.
Does not.
Uh,
Yeah.
I I always fast forward that scene whenever I'm watching.
Oh, what? No.
Why would I want to watch that? Like,
Yeah,
it's
it's rough.
What?
oh.
What? Oh
And
my
then
gosh.
when the Rancor dies, I cry. Like, come on, you see
You're
Malakilu's
supposed
sadness.
to.
Like, that's sad. Like, that's not a triumph. Like,
Yeah, but we see. Come on now. Okay. All right.
just
Yeah,
saying.
I love the first half of Return of the Jedi is incredible. Second half is also great, but I really enjoy the first half.
Yeah.
And so all those scenes, I'm like, yeah, and everybody's like, no, that's rough, and I'm like, okay.
It's a rough scene.
I joked with Lisa before, in the old insiders and stuff that you can find the ad for it, but there was a golden bronze Rancor that's just like ripping apart the Gamorrean, and she's just like, oh my god.
I don't
And I was like, I
understand.
want it though. It's thousands, I think, now at this point, but I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
want it.
As long as it's not Ula, 'cause that would be really sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think too many people would complain.
Nah, they were like, nobody's gonna get upset about the pig.
Yeah.
And they used
Yeah.
the Gamorrean instead. So, but that would have been cool though. I would have still bought it if it was Ula. I don't care. Savage, but
Yes, you are.
it'd have been terrifying actually if it was Ula. But anyway, go on.
Yeah. Since we do have one of these amazing authors coming, if you want to talk a bit about Karina Bechko, Catherine, because I
Gosh.
didn't fill out my whole list.
um I love what she did with Ania Solo. The legacy era, I will admit, is like a little bit outside of what like I've read over and over again. But I really enjoy it. It's such an interesting, like, all of the politics of that era are so interesting because like it's
Mhm.
just it's topsy-turvy. Like it's not great. Like the Jedi have become the Imperial Knights, kind of,
Yeah.
sort of, but also not.
Yeah.
Like, and
Oh, it's
like
awesome.
the Republic is like the fell empire. Like there's a
Yeah.
lot going on that's really complicated. And it would have been really cool to see it like, you know, if there'd been more time to flesh it out even more. Because there's just there's just a lot going on there.
Yeah.
But she will
Yeah,
be
it was
at a
incredible.
panel
Yes,
at
yes.
LegendsCon, guys.
She's,
So
We'll talk
she's
about it.
excited. She's excited to come. I'm excited that she's going to be there. She'll be signing autographs, talking to people. Yeah, I like probably 2013, 2014, I ran into her at Emerald City Comic Con. She's super nice. Yeah, and she's excited. We're excited. It's great. And she now like part-time is a paleontologist, which is super awesome.
so
Awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a writer, but I
Yeah.
also dig for dinosaurs. Like,
Yeah.
like when,
I think she does
How much
fox-
cooler
Part-time.
can you get?
yeah.
Yeah.
Part-time, you
Yeah,
know, just
part-time.
to make a little extra
Part-time.
scratch, you know.
Well, look, you know, like that's a statement on the comic industry, and like being a writer and stuff like that is
Yes,
it's rough. Like,
yes.
you know, it
Oh yeah,
you
you
have to
gotta have
take a
something
part-time
else.
job.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah,
to.
but paleontology.
Yeah,
So I thought we,
just her, I believe.
yeah, just
Go on.
her. I thought we had finished, and I'm sorry if I've skipped some authors that I just can't think of any off the top of my head. But I thought we finished with the one who kind of started it all, which is Lee Brackett. So she, you know, born in 1915, died in 1978. So she wrote the first draft of Empire Strikes Back, guys. Some details obviously changed from when after she died, and then Lawrence Kasdan wrote over. I thought it was funny when she had Yoda as Minch. What an odd name. I don't know if you guys have read the draft ever. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's quite a piece of work. Definitely worth. I have a copy of it on my computer if you guys want to read it. It's like you see her like her written notes on this draft and like George's notes on it too. Pretty cool. And what is really nice about it is that she still gets credit for Empire Strikes Back, and that's because Lucas made sure to submit the first draft to the Writers Guild of America so that she would get that credit. So I think that's really cool. One thing that is also going to happen at the con, guys, is we have a guest who we haven't announced yet, who will be doing a talk all about sci-fi and how it built up to the point that we got Star Wars and kind of a history
Yeah.
on Lee Brackett as well. And I'm really excited for that guest, but
I'm
we
down.
haven't announced it yet, so
We'll get there.
we're getting
Yeah.
there. So we've got more to come, guys, is what we're saying. So okay. So now that we've gone through some of the authors, who are some of your guys' favorite if you wanted to do like kind of a little quick say?
I mean, anybody want to take any guesses about like based off of what's behind me, who my favorite female character is? It's definitely Callista. Yeah. No.
I thought so.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's okay. You know, maybe you're an Ahsoka person or. See, I can even be passive with it.
On this show.
I can even be passive with it. It's. I was not insulting you. I promise.
Yeah. I do want to
Go
do
on.
that one Clone Wars Legends book, but you know, I'm working Kyle up to that point.
Yeah, that's the Gambit
Yeah.
books by Karen
They
Miller.
don't-
Like it's
Yeah.
a lot of
They-
fun. Like
It's
You
Kyle.
can take all
He's-
5 of those books out, and it wouldn't make any difference. I usually do. I put them in there because like Dark Horse, you know, for UK and all that stuff. Like all the TCW comics, everything was kind of made in its own little bubble, and they did the same thing. You know, Del Rey did the same thing with those 5. So that's how I see it.
but yeah, no, I love Mara. Mara's my girl.
Yeah, we'll get
I really love just like how deep her character arc is, and the fact that like this is so like when I'm in my Mara costume doing events, and so often like somebody knows who she is and is like explaining her to somebody who doesn't, and they always just start off with like, oh yeah, she's Luke Skywalker's wife. And that like hurts me a little bit inside, because that just like it brings so many assumptions to her character, and it puts her in a box kind of thing, and she's so obviously like that's an important part of her life, but like I really love the fact that at least when Timothy Zahn is writing her, like she doesn't revolve around Luke at all. Like she has her own goals, and sometimes her goals do involve Luke, namely killing him. But like she really, it's something that I think a lot of IP struggles with, is like if you have like a main male character, you know, like having them be in a relationship with somebody without that character just being very like one-dimensional. So I love how complicated she is. One of the costume groups that I'm in is Saber Guild, which does choreographed lightsaber performances, and I wrote a show that is after the events of the Thrawn trilogy, that is like a Force vision of her with Palpatine, that's kind of her like dealing with some trauma related to that, and like just that the character has like so much potential for that. Like it's so
Yeah.
interesting to dive into that, like her, how she grew up, and how, you know, when given a choice, you know, being shown like human decency for the first time by not just Luke but Leia and Lando, everybody. Just like the choices that she made. She's just such a interesting, complicated character to me. I love
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
And just I love then like her relationship with Leia and Jaina and everybody. It's just really solid. I love them all.
Corinthia, I know you might have to leave at some point, so I'd love to
Yeah.
hear some more from you. Your favorite characters, and then as well, like even favorite authors that really
Uh,
touched you.
oh man, I have to think about that. I've been staring at my bookcase this whole time, being like, "Oh no, what's my favorite?" But I mean, like, I really love like some looking into. Well, clearly I'm a huge Sith fan, so looking into like some Sith history, there are some really prominent like female figures
Darth Troya.
in Sith
Yeah.
history that are like these really amazing characters that kind of like carried that forward, and it's great to like look at it and be like, yeah, it's not just a boys club.
Yes.
So I mean, I love like
Everyone can be
Xana's
evil
sources.
murderers.
Yeah, women can be mean too.
Yes.
But like I love Xana from like the Darth Bane trilogy,
Yeah.
and Cognis that came after her, and I love that like the foundation of the Sith Order, like that peace is a lie thing was written by a woman, by Sorza Sin, right? So I just think there's so many like awesome smaller characters in like Sith history that are women, and I just love that. So
Yeah. I really wish
Have
we
you
get
read
more of Cognis. I think she's such a
yeah,
formidable character because she's like all powerful in her mind and just like whips everyone's butt so so easily.
yeah, I
Like,
know.
you
Yeah,
know, like she just kind of like
terribly underused.
stands back and watches Bane and Zana fight to the death, and she's like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm gonna kill one of them eventually. So
Just let them sort this out between themselves, and I'll just step in later.
yeah, which she does. So
Yeah.
have you read Fate of the Jedi, Corinthia?
I've started it and haven't finished yet.
Okay. Because
ooh,
Vistara is so much fun.
Yeah.
yes,
Oh yeah,
I was
no.
about to say,
Vistara.
I mean, I know the characters, so I
Yeah.
also love Vistara, and that kind of ties into like Lost Tribe of the Sith, of course,
Yes.
with the whole Kyle lineage, and I
Mhm.
freaking love Lost Tribe of the Sith.
I do
So,
too.
yeah.
If you ever get a chance, John Jackson Miller came on and he did like a whole in-depth. He came on Legends Library. Like he went through
Yeah.
all of Lost Tribes. Like I could leave the room because he was just like verbatim going,
Yeah.
"Oh, and then this happened and this character and this."
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll be you just talk now." It was
Yeah.
incredible. Like
Yeah.
so, yeah. What a great series. I love Lost Tribes.
Yeah. And great female characters in Lost Tribe as well.
Yes.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So
Well, I
Yeah,
definitely have.
Vistara was one of my favorites,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love
and I
Vistara.
liked what was
yeah.
I liked what was happening there, and it's just one of those other really unfortunate things that we missed because of the buyout, because they were right there. It's like the first time
Right.
ever in the
Yeah.
modern era we have a whole bunch of Jedi and a whole bunch of Sith, and we're
Yeah.
on Coruscant, and there's secret agents, and Sith's gonna go down. I
Yeah.
almost cursed. I
Yeah.
saved it. I saved it there. And then it's just like cut, and we were gonna see that whole dynamic of Luke and Mara and however they were gonna mix it up, but like that was gonna be them, Ben
Yeah.
Yeah.
and Vistara. It was already
Yeah.
them. You know, they already kicked it off. And
Yeah.
I loved how Mara and Luke were so, like, especially Luke, who had to deal with it. And it's just like, oh
Yeah.
God, like
These
we're driving
16-year-olds.
around in the
Yeah.
RV and he's got his girlfriend in the back. I'm just gonna, you know?
Like, it's just,
I loved
there's
all of that.
like, yeah, like that the dynamic between the three of them, and just like Vestara seeing, like, you know, because with, you know, like with there being a bunch of Sith, like this is really like when you have like cultural, like you have a culture of Sith, and like how messed up that is, and like the interaction that really sticks with me is like Luke is not Luke, Ben is mouthing off to Luke, and Luke's reaction to that is just like, oh, he reminds me so much of his mother when he, you know, sasses me. And then like Luke leaves, and Vestara is like, doesn't your father beat you if you talk to him like that?
Yeah.
And Ben is like, who do you think my father is? Like, does your father beat you? Like, what? Like, you know, just like, I think it's a really, like, I know you guys are a bunch of Sith fans, but like, I'm sorry, the Sith eat their young. Like, you know, it really.
Yeah.
Well, she was involved with her father's death pretty much, so.
Oh yeah. Yeah, spoilers. There's more involved. She's sole proprietor. But yeah, just like really, I think it's really interesting to contrast like the way Jedi are raised versus Sith are raised, and how messed up all that is. Like, you know, she rides in on her tick, I forget what that animal species is called, but like, you know, basically she's got her flying horse equivalent kind of thing, and like
Tick was his name.
Tick. Yeah, I don't remember what the species is, but like,
when they
you know,
killed
one
him?
of her first. Yeah, like that's one of her first trials. She's supposed to kill him. And it's just like, yeah, man, like it's everyone who's like, oh well, like the Jedi and Sith, they're the same, they're like equally bad. It's like, well, the Jedi don't beat their children and have them kill their pet mount. Like,
yeah, they're like, yeah, don't get attached. Yeah, that's
there
their
are some
method.
things that are objectively not great.
Just a little bit.
I will admit.
On one
and you
hand,
shall sleep on the stones. And
on one hand, we have a culture that's inspired by Buddhism, so most Westerners don't understand what attachment means in this context. And on the other hand, we have child abuse. Like, are they the same picture?
Yeah. The Sith. Where would we be without them?
In a much more peaceful galaxy.
There would be no balance, though.
There's a lot. That's a loaded question.
We're about to jump off on a whole other thing. Like,
yeah, I'm sorry. I keep bringing up things that you keep going, no, don't do it. I'm just like to edge on the crowd.
That'd be a good topic to have a nice debate on.
At some point, I would love to bring one of my friends on here, Liisa, who is Buddhist, who's a big Star Wars fan, to like fully explain, like that. Everything with, you know, like what it means by balance and what it means by attachment, that kind of stuff, because
I'll get in that
she
debate any
educated
day.
me on a lot of stuff. And it makes a lot more sense, and like knowing like Lucas has said that's where he was coming from on a lot of his world building for the Jedi, and like he at one point called himself like a Buddhist Methodist, you know, like it's like it's really fascinating stuff.
One day, definitely. I don't want to antagonize him, but talks to him. Okay. But if we want to get a little bit more into some of the characters, I do have a very extensive.
Yes.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
She sent us pictures of her notes, and Kyle was talking about it earlier, how like, and I was doing the same thing. I was like, you know, zooming in and just being like, I was like, he's saying a lot here and I can't read it. Like,
well, it's a size for me to read. Like, there's a lot. There's a lot of characters, and I keep like, as we've been talking, I go, oh, I didn't write anything about that character. Like, I forgot to write about Lando's wife, for example. Like,
Sandra.
Shoot.
And Winter.
I didn't write about Winter, you know.
See, we could just go on and on because there's plenty. Because I think
it's just
one
so
of
many.
the biggest, most misunderstood aspect of the Star Wars universe that was the EU was like dominated by women, and like there was plenty
Mhm.
of it, and that's why I hate hearing that they're like, oh, and it's like that is not true at all. What about Ayala? And like she kind
Yeah.
of shaped the course of
Yeah.
everything.
Dala and
So I'm yeah, and Izzard and stuff, it's like, yeah, they were
yes.
like, what are you talking about? They
Yeah.
they owned, and then Leia, and the beat goes on,
And
and I'm
Leia,
just
yeah.
so there's always been like a matriarch, so to speak, right? And it's like, oh, how
Mhm.
about let's start with Padme?
Let's
Yeah.
Take it
let's
back.
talk about the matriarchy. Let's talk about the Hapes Consortium.
Yes. Oh,
They're
we're definitely
Yeah.
getting there.
I
Yeah,
mean, we
Ryan
the
haven't
Howard.
even
Hapes
touched on like
Consortium.
the Witches of Dathomir. So
Oh,
Yeah,
there.
and that's all like
Yes.
that's OG stuff here. We're talking
yeah.
now.
Yeah. Courtship of
Like, all right, not
Leia, Dave
exactly OG,
Wolverton.
but yeah,
Well,
Mhm.
it's
yeah,
still Bantam. Yeah.
yeah, it
Love
counts.
Kenalka so
Yeah. I
much.
love
She's
the
so cool.
Dathomirian
Kenalka
witches in
and
Courtship.
Tahiri.
She's on the
Yeah,
list.
Love Tahiri.
Yeah.
Tahiri's my favorite character out of I think still everyone to this day.
We're
It's the whole Anakin thing. Like,
Yes.
yeah,
in
when
preparation.
Jason,
Go ahead.
when Jason messes with her and Flo walks her back, like that scene, I was just like, oh my god, that's
Ugh.
still like the saddest scene in all of Star Wars for me.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking.
When we're writing our like convention policies in preparation for putting the tickets on sale, and so we have to do like a section on cosplay, which is like wear clothing including like shoes, and like specifically call out Tahiri in this of just like
Yes.
sorry. All right, someone is repeatedly ringing my doorbell. I'll be
Yeah,
right back.
I thought I heard that, and I thought I was going crazy for a little bit of a second. Sure.
This might be a good time for me to actually head out since I've got to go.
Okay. Well,
Well, I guess I'll plug my Facebook group. I run a Facebook group. We're called the Final Sith Order. We do, you guessed it, Sith roleplay and discussion and just like lore debate. We're pretty heavy on the EU and heavy into Sith lore. So if you're interested in that, check us out. We also have a forum. It's forums.sithempire.net. So check us out
great.
and give us a follow. Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us,
So
Corinthia. We
it's
really
Yeah.
appreciate
fun
it.
as always.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great having you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry you have to go, but
Yes.
come back
Yeah.
anytime for sure.
Well, next time. Until next time.
Until next time. Yeah.
So,
Bye.
right. Bye.
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 All right, so we're back now that Corinthia has left us for the evening. And now we're going to
Oh.
get into our characters' descriptions, and, we're going to go through this chronologically. So, Kyle, I'm going to put you right on the spot right now.
Okay.
Because who was one of the first females in Star Wars world? You know who I'm going to ask.
Oh, I know.
I'm going to get it right.
Was it? What was it? Was it Lannery
No.
Brock?
No.
Is that who you're
I
referring
like
to?
her though.
I
She's
love her.
cool.
She's a couple down.
Oh, I was thinking in the timeline. I'm like, oh wait, hold on. As far as the books are concerned, here we go. Yeah,
I want to talk
yeah,
about
the first-
Tilotny a little bit more.
Oh, you're talking about the real stuff.
The
Yeah.
real stuff.
All right.
And
yeah,
go.
that. As far as the expanded universe, yeah, she's definitely one of the original females, so to speak. She was, as far as like as she's concerned, she was birthed from a pseudo like former angel, now like not to be confused with Guardian of the Galaxy, but just for the term of it, celestial being.
Yeah.
And he, in a moment of passion, which he's not supposed to feel, as far as like those darker human emotions, birthed 4 beings that were known as the Bedlam spirits. And Tilotny is more or less just the ringleader of such. And where together, all 4, they were a balanced unit, and then one of the spiritual siblings leaves, and Tilotny becomes a little off kilter, as does her other siblings. And yes, wonderful. Tilotny throws a shape, by the way, it's her first appearance.
Alan Moore.
Yeah, and he's an entire conversation. We can do like 3 episodes on Alan Moore altogether. That would be great. But anyway, yes, Alan Moore's creation, and she is eventually Abeloth.
Da-da-da.
So yes,
And we all love
I was wondering
Abeloth.
if that's where this was going.
Yeah.
Like,
yes. So like Abeloth is a reincarnation. So so as we know her, yeah. I won't go into any more
Well, that's
detail
I think the
on
most we've gotten out of
Tilotny.
you ever. I do like Tilotny throws a shape the story. So if we can talk a bit about that though. So it's Princess Leia being pursued by some stormtroopers onto an unknown world, and Tilotny just kind of shows up, floating in space, this beautiful green character, and goddess essentially. And she's like, "Hey, I'm going to play with these little toys that are on this world," and changes them into like actual different shapes and name and kills them. So Leia actually dies in this story, and it's kind of a wild moment. You're like, "Wait, what? Dies at some point?" But then
Yes.
she's brought back. And which is the character that brings her back? Is it? I can't
It's Horus.
remember. Okay.
And it's so yeah, they're Tilotny freezes them all, kind of giggles about it. Essentially, to kind of put it in a nutshell, Horus undoes it, kills him again, and it's just like, yeah. And then Splendid App repairs them. Yes, and fixes the situation. He's kind of like the scapegoat of the four.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, I'll clean it up. And then so like Leia and them.
Yeah. So Leia's comes alive again, but the problem is he rectifies all of them, but he doesn't put them in the right timeline, and he sends the stormtroopers 8,000 years into the past.
oops.
And the stormtroopers die there, and then like it kind of ties back to the beginning where you see like the stormtrooper armor in the dust on this world, and but then Leia gets rescued.
This very scene defines the Splendid App theory that's brought through in supernatural encounters. It's the Splendid App theory. That's yeah, yes. That's been like going on for a while, and I perpetuate it, and that explains the Star Wars universe. There's like a bridge here in which App accidentally creates a different universe, so to speak.
Yeah.
And different dimension.
Well, if we can now talk a bit about Abeloth as well, you can share what you know about her.
She's great. I absolutely. I know people don't appreciate it, but I love Fate of the Jedi, right? And I think that of all the series, that when they decided to go that route as far as sequential, let's take a couple authors, pair them up, see how far it will go. Which was a great idea. I thought that series was written for fans more than fans ever really got. It's just like it's got scenes like I know that I'm digressing a little bit, but like Boba Fett and Dale just like chilling out in a room, kind of just basically being like, yeah, So like I own Mandalore, and she's like, yeah. Well, I own the New Republic.
Yeah, and her timeline is like 100,000 years before Battle Yavin.
Yeah, as far as far as Abeloth goes, right? We're still talking. Yeah, I'm like kind of steering clear of it for a little bit here,
right?
Because there's a lot coming up to make sense of the ancient universe. So,
and that's by Joe Bongiorno. So, and we'll see more of that soon, guys.
And the context for Abeloth and exactly like her purpose, which yes, the books explain, but I think that it would have meant a lot more if you would have had supernatural encounters first.
Yeah.
So hopefully those who read it and then go back and actually read Fate of the Jedi, it's more of a true send-off series.
And of course, if you don't read it, you can listen to the audio drama that Kyle is also the director of, with a couple people that we know who will be in it, like myself, as Tilotny. Hence why I try to get you to talk about her.
I know!
I barely know. You won't tell me.
I know. I'm treating it as much as like Lucas would do it, the whole thing.
I know, it's
It's
infuriating.
like, yes, you will know when you need to know.
Moving on though, because we can talk a bit about Abel a bit later. But yeah, so back to that book you pulled earlier on the shelf, Lannery Brock, Human from Tython. I thought Tython was such a cool concept. You know, like the inner bits of the galaxy, like the right inside of, and like the kind of like the Big Bang essentially that had happened, and the Thoyor and how it brought all these species of like special species into this one kind of central place. Um, what I am really annoyed by Tython is the fact that now in Disney, uh, they make it really easy to get to, and it just doesn't like that. Yeah, no, it's impossible. Like so. But Lennery Brock, she is.
That's the shuttle, you know.
I know.
Oh, you're going to Tython, bro.
Yeah.
No, you're all right. You'll get there by Thursday. Just
Yeah.
come on, relax.
Pick up some beer. Like, yeah. But yeah, so Lannery, so we've covered her before in the show, but she was kind of first brought forth by John Ostrander. So it's 25,000 years before Battle of Yavin, and then the Thoyor timeline is 10,000 years after Thoyor arrival. What I like about her character is like she seems such a normal person, but then she's really faced with this crazy obstacle of, hey, you're gonna have to find your brother who faked his death and potentially kill him because he wants to open up like a black hole essentially and destroy us all, and you got to be okay with that. Um, and you know, you feel for her, like for her.
We never got like any resolution to it because there was clearly supposed to be more books and there wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I had faith in Tim Levin. Like,
Yeah, I liked it.
I did.
I liked his book.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like we get like those hints of like those really deep ancient cultures that we just don't really know a lot about. Like and like the Gree technology, like the hypergate, like that's pretty cool. Obviously, we don't see it ever again. Like I don't know if anywhere in Star Wars kind of visits that again.
We shall see.
Other than Joe and things I'm not allowed to know. So moving along in the timeline. So, I also did want to mention her master, Dan Powell. Uh, I liked her as a character. She kind of had like that sexy Pyth or Twi'lek guy that she used as her play toy, who then Lannery has to work with. Which is funny. Also, what's wild about this timeline is that they all have swords that are made of Durasteel. They're not lightsabers yet. Like that comes in a couple years, and that comes when in the Dawn of the Jedi comics that we absolutely adore, when the Force Hound Dash lands on the world and several of the Jedi, because it's Jedi, not Jedi, have to go and track down whatever this crazy disturbance was. And Jay Coda, I love that the moment where she's running after him and then they have to fight that creature. And, you know, she catches him in the end and he's like, oh, you can go ahead. You're allowed to eat my heart. And she's like, that's not what we do here. like, I don't know what kind of world you're from. And, you know, obviously he's from a Rakatan world. So things a little more intense over there. So I do like some of the other characters that we get to see, like Tasha Rio, the Twi'lek, who's kind of like the Force seer. And also what's really cool about Shea Coda is she creates that dragon / rancor known as Butch. Butch, and you know, Butch in the end saves them.
Yeah.
Which I thought was just really sweet. It's just like I feel that rancors have like a really lovely personality, and we see that in Courtship of Princess Leia, obviously. So yeah, I love that scene where it's like diving into the chasm, and then like the just all the lights and
that was definitely when the whole concept was still a little bit more neutral, and because otherwise that's like this dark alchemy, like
yeah,
messing with the rancor like that and whatnot.
yeah.
So
Well,
I love
alchemy of
that
the
element.
flesh,
That
like
everything was still sort of gray.
yeah. Well, that is what's really interesting is exactly that. Like they do alchemy of the flesh, like they're changing
Mhm.
things and it's okay. Like people are kind of going, that's, that's questionable behavior what you're doing, but we're still Jedi, so we'll accept it. Like you're doing it for good, right? Like you're not
Yeah,
gonna wage war in our world. So
yeah, and it was good. It was good for the concept. You can finally get some more concrete things to compare it to, because it's just like, that's the reason why there's a lot of breakaways from the order.
yeah.
There's the Altus, um, sector of Jedi. We talked about Callista earlier. She was part of that. They believe in having couples and stuff. So there's a reason why there's a lot of stigma against the Jedi. Instead of just
Yeah.
talking about it, it's just like, oh, we see the origin.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like see the origin of the lightsaber, which is actually Rakatan technology. We get hypergates. Like it's like this is a really cool time period that we just don't get enough of, in my opinion. And I really wish they would focus a bit more about it. Catherine, have you read all the Dawn of the Jedi, or are you?
I have read some of them, and it was a while ago, but I did really enjoy them.
Yeah.
I thought they were a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, the character design especially, like
Yeah.
Patrick and he's been I don't know if he wants me to say this or not. He's been thinking about doing a Zesh costume
Oh,
for Legends
cool.
Con,
That's
and I just like started looking at it, and then just like like it just like we just kind of spiraled from there. Like I was looking at it, just like, oh man, like it's such a cool character design, but like, oh man, like trying to make that in like IRL. Yeah, and like they're all such interesting characters. Yeah, I
and,
find them fun.
yeah. And Kyle, you kind of have your name Trill. Is that from Humanoid Spy in this?
Or is that Star Trek?
Yeah. Is is
My
it
name?
like your like online handle? You had it as like Trill.
Yeah, I've actually had that since like I was like 8 or 9 years old.
Oh,
It just every time you can make a character name, I can't remember what it used to be, but I eventually shortened it down, and it was just like, so I just use it.
so
Yeah.
it's nothing to do with this character.
No, it's
Oh,
definitely just video game culture.
oh, I thought it
Yeah, I
was.
just liked it, and it's like, because it's like, like or whatever, like a trill. So and I was like,
Okay, I get it. Yeah. No, I was like,
yeah,
oh
like a
wow,
little
he
shark.
likes his spy character a lot. That he named himself after a female. That's kind of cool. Very progressive, Kyle.
Right.
But I guess.
I always assumed it was
Uh,
after the Star Trek species, so we're both wrong, Lisa.
yeah, no, I cannot be confused with the Trekkie. There's nothing wrong with Trekkies.
I go both
Don't
ways.
I
send mail. It's okay.
I
We didn't mean I didn't mean to offend the Trekkies.
I couldn't even talk about Star Trek. I don't know. Every once in a while, I've had people like, "Oh, you're into Star
Fanboys.
Trek, right?" And I'm like, "Excuse me."
I love Star Trek. Maybe this is just
Watch
me being a scientist
Yeah,
that like it's actual sci-fi, not space opera. Yeah, I love Star Trek.
I like the
watch Fanboys.
opera.
Did you ever see it?
I think
Um,
so.
Yes.
possibly.
There's a scene in there for you. If I love that film. I think it describes that entire thing very well. Anyway, continue.
So jumping now super far forward into the timeline in roughly about 3,900 BBY. So getting to a character like Bastila Shan, she's a big popular favorite character for anyone who plays Knights of the Old Republic. I personally have never played any video games, so
What?
I know. Well, I did things like, go outside. Um
Insane. That's why KOTOR is like the one video game that I've played all
yeah,
the way through pretty much, is because
that's
yeah.
awesome.
You can
I've
have it on your phone.
Yeah. Really? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I've watched
I
it. Like
think.
I've watched someone do it all at once, and it was a commitment. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot of things. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just not really. I feel like if I started doing video games, I would not leave, and my cat hate because I
No,
would not
they'll
be
love
feeding
you.
them.
No, believe me, that's not how this works. You sit in one spot, and they eventually get like these territories built in of where only their butts can sit, and like,
That's
and like
funny.
you have snacks, and then they know eventually like they're gonna get you to give them snacks,
Yeah.
and then they're gonna relax. They're gonna love you if you get into video game mode.
Yeah.
Bastille is great. I really love Mission too. And Juhani.
Mission Veil. Yes.
She's so much fun.
Yes. Jodeye great too. Tell me,
did your doom.
Yeah. did you make did you kill Juhani at the end?
No.
Did you ever try it on the dark side?
No.
She doesn't do dark side, Kyle.
What I did do though is my very first playthrough as like a little, Catholic schoolgirl who, was still in the closet even to herself, is I just somehow managed to flirt with Juhani without even realizing it. So I unlocked the whole thing where she like asks you out, because I was playing as a female character. And then I like felt some kind of way about that as a like 17-year-old who didn't really know what was going on with myself even. And then I found out later that like apparently it's really hard to unlock that, and I was just like, what? Like,
it was your destiny.
No. I just happened across this. But yeah, no, I always play it light side. I've only played it through fully twice because again, I don't really do video games, but yeah, I love Juhani. But Mission is also just so much fun. Like I really hope that they come out with the 6-inch Black Series, because they did the Zalbar one.
And
I'm like, we need Mission now. Like
I think they will.
Yeah.
I think they're getting there. I think they will.
Yeah.
The Galaxy of Heroes, I used to play that for years on the mobile. It featured like Coder 1 and 2 for years now.
There,
so
right?
it's and they even got like Mara and Kyle now. Like there's more stuff, which is fine. But their heavy feature on that always made me think that they're gonna be pushing on that, I think.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna get a lot of variations of like EU stuff, because I think that they realized that it actually sells.
Well, what sells is always a Jedi
saying.
who falls into being a Sith and then is able to redeem themselves. Like that's a common kind of parallel that we always go through. And we saw that with Bastilla when she sided with Darth Malak for a brief time after he captured her and tortured her and all that kind of fun stuff. You always gotta have some torture in order to turn to the dark side. Like that's just the common factor.
Yeah.
I do love
then
that she falls. Sorry, go ahead.
You can keep the cool costume after you like
Yeah.
bring them back and stuff. Like,
That's
you
true.
Just kind of dress them all up the way you want. No, I would always just make them all evil anyway. Anyway, go on.
I love how she falls in love with Revan, mostly because I do like romance stories, with dark side intentions. But then
she was done wrong though.
You think
I'm
so?
sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Yeah,
you guys know her better than I do.
Did you?
That book.
Revan. Yeah, no, I don't have to pull him down every time. But
she basically is kind of like a housewife, and it's just like.
Yeah, and I get where he was going because he had to tie a lot of things together, but he leaves her and he leaves his child, and he goes to fight Vitiate.
Yeah.
And just never returns. So it's tragic, and she knows, she feels it, and she knows. And because Revan's not dead, he gets stuck in stasis for a couple hundred years. Yeah, but she obviously just grows old and dies alone.
Happy time.
Super sad.
Sad. At least they had a kid.
Yeah.
Some happiness.
Yeah, that's important, because then we get Satele, who I think is next on your list, right?
Actually, I have Nomi Sunrider, but if you want to talk about Satele.
I mean, again, I've played some of SWTOR, not all of it, because I can't sit still for that long. But she's so amazing, and that cinematic trailer of her fighting Malgus in the woods on Alderaan is just it's so beautiful.
Yes.
It's so beautiful. Like it's what we all aspire to with like Saber Guild and stuff, and we'll never hit that point because we're not, we don't have the Force, so we can't actually do backflips. But like, yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
she's so cool.
What do you think about her?
She was awesome. There's a brief run. They didn't really do a whole lot of like comics for SWTOR, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
The game is cool. it's been a minute since I've been in with it, but like Sally was, I thought that it was nice that they kind of continued it because I remember being into her in the Old Republic series, and then what was that? Which one was that? Not the Path, the Annihilation, because there's another descendant of like Revan and Vassal in there too.
Okay.
So they kept that trend alive for a little bit in those novels, which was nice. But that novel did Vassal wrong. Getting back to the thread here.
That's unfortunate.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. If anything, you just kind of wish that there was more of like time made for it. If it had to happen, something a little bit more poetic than what we saw.
Yeah, I feel that way sometimes with Jaina later. Certain authors like
That
certain
kind of stuff.
Troy Denning that just does not give her a very good justice. I kind of cringe when he writes her.
Having to train with Boba Fett in order to know how to kill her brother. I'm just gonna be over here in my hate corner and take a little drink.
Well, I mean that was kind of fun, but I just felt that like she felt very like flat whenever Troy wrote her, and like I don't know. It was, for me, it was coming from like a female author like stance that I'm going, no, I don't agree with that. Like she just had more of an edge. But we'll talk about Jaina later. So moving on. So still in the same time frame. So Nomi Sunrider, so another fan favorite. She was in Dark Horse Comics 7 and spiraled into the Tales of the Jedi by Tom Veitch and also by Kevin J. Anderson. Originally, she was kind of a sketch in like a stained glass thing that was featured in the Clone Wars, and then they were like, "Oh, why don't we write more about this character?" And then she just became kind of a fan favorite, and then we even get some of her descendants in Abel Pina's Lone Wolf story, so which is really cool. What's sad about her is like she got married pretty early on, and then her husband was like brutally murdered in front of her.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, and all for some
it's one of like
crystals.
It's one of the few examples of like reverse fridging that I can think of in fiction, because like he dies and she's like, all right, I'm off on a quest now. Like it's
Which has got a lot to do, you know. She's
like, all right, well.
It's cool how like it's really rare that we see like mothers with young children going out and like doing cool stuff, and that's one of the cool, like she's got a baby strapped to her like most of the time that she's doing running around. Like it's just it's refreshing to see. I appreciate that.
I agree. Yeah, no, that's so true.
Yeah, but Star Wars didn't have powerful women in the EU.
Definitely do.
Right? Come on now. I'm sorry. I gotta stop. Continue.
No, it's okay. No one's gonna complain. We love our Legends Library fans. Everyone is very lovely and kind, and no one has ever said anything. And we don't have any weird stalkers.
You had to say it.
I had to say it, guys. Just a brief. Things happen. Not with Legends, but elsewhere. It's anyways. Moving on.
Anyway.
So Nomi, what's really cool about her is like she's fighting in the Great Sith Wars against like the Rides of Exar Kun. She does witness Ula Keldroma kill his brother, and then eventually she becomes the Grand Master, and like kind of her. Again, like you guys said, like her arc is really just powerful. She just kicks butt the whole time and just says like, what are you gonna do? I got a baby on my back. Like, I got stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Now that Corinthia is gone, I did want her to be around for this point, but talking about Darth Treya or / Kreia, also formerly known. Human,
wonderful character.
Human Jedi Sith triumvirate. What a cool character, like teaming up with Darth Nihilus and Darth Sion. Eventually he obviously does die because most Sith get beaten. But she trained Revan during the Mandalorian Wars. She also pulled Revan from the mass shadow generator, so I thought that was pretty cool. What do you guys think about her relationship with Mitra Surik?
This is where I confess that I haven't played KOTOR 2 because again, I don't really do video games.
I got you. Mitra was the the exile, right? And so to put it all in like a nutshell quick, you can kind of think of it like, okay, so Treya, and because Knights of the Old Republic, there's so many like tie-ins with it, but the Triumvirate that you mentioned, because you didn't play it either, right? So that's right, because you don't play video games, Lisa. So the Triumvirate became like, she was kind of their mentor, so to speak. And eventually they turned on her because that Nihilus is like this
That's what Sith
you
do.
cannot yeah, and you cannot pacify his like the void that he is or is becoming at that point. And Scion, so him and Scion like become the Triumvirate, and they exile Kreia, and they strip her from the Force. So she pretends to be, she's this old woman that you find pretty early in the story of KOTOR 2. And you don't really know about her for a good bit, and she's just like, oh, frail, and she's missing an arm and whatnot, right? So it's just like, oh, she's under that guise, and she ends up being this she pretends to be like, remember Vergier?
Yes. Oh, we're gonna talk about Rogier. Yes.
Yeah, so she is the as far as the video games are concerned, and in every which way, like that's a good comparison to how she is, because she's lying the whole time, right? And she actually is. Once she also returns her connection to the Force, because that's what Nihilus and Scion take from her, and then she obviously turns on the exile and them as well. It's this whole thing.
Yeah.
But so yeah, the relationship with Mitra is really messed up, manipulative. She's part of the crew, so she's like part of your team the entire time, and like she'll pull you aside, say some stuff to you. And a lot of times she's trying to guide you, and like it's seemingly the light, but it's really for her own motivation,
Okay.
to get you up against the Triumvirate, which is really her
Triumvirate.
former. No,
Oh
they
yeah,
become the
the
Triumvirate,
Triumvirate,
Nihilus
yeah,
and
right.
Scion.
Yeah.
They throw her out of like the empire that they created, because they also were the Triumvirate killed the Jedi Order for the most part. It was the second Jedi Purge.
Yeah.
Or the first, you know what I mean? The first, sorry, not the second.
First.
But the first Jedi Purge, in which like, yeah, it was devastation, just kind of like around that time of New Hope, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, Nihilus, he
so
attacked that conclave and then sucked everyone's life dry except for his apprentice.
For what?
When Nihilus, he attacked a conclave,
Yeah,
and that's how he got his apprentice.
Yeah,
that's
his whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the whole
his apprentice was just like a surviving girl. Yeah, they and they're like a big playable race in this voter. They're the Miraluka. And she's just like this disturbed like orphan, because he killed her planet, and like so she's like part of like a cult with him, so to speak. And then she breaks away and joins your squad. So she's like one of your characters to kind of sit. Speaking of Visas, she was like a really cool character from the time from KOTOR 2. And yeah, and she doesn't see through like conventional means, right? That's why she has that drape over her eyes. So she's blind, and they see all Miraluka see through the Force, and it's their gift. And so she always teeters, because you can tell that like Nihilus had destroyed her.
Yeah,
but then she like actually you can turn her to the light,
her
though.
eyes out too, though. Even she didn't. He actually took her eyes out too in the comic. There's a moment where you see it like blood dripping down. Is pretty intense.
It's like unnecessary.
Yeah, she's already blind. It's like
yeah, it's just like, that's why I sit there.
Off the rails.
Expletive.
Off the rails.
It reminds me of that moment in Rogue One when they pull the bag over, and he's like, "Are you kidding me?" Like,
I'm blind.
I'm blind. I love that moment. Yeah,
I love Rogue One.
Me too. We all love Rogue One. What a fantastic movie. So in the end, Darth Treya.
No, retract, edit. I'm teasing.
No.
But Darth Treya. Diz can't.
She does die by Mitra Surik in the end. She does kill her.
Yes, she kind of becomes the big bad, to put it in mild terms. Yes, and she's really, really skilled though. She has 3 lightsabers that she wields constantly, so she'll have them like spinning all around her body, and that's so. I always thought that because of like the saber throw being a universal, but like generally dark side kind of a skill.
Yeah.
She was pretty cool as far as attributes and all that fun stuff. She was intensely powerful
Yeah.
and very like deceitful.
Yeah. She looks
Yes.
beautiful. Skipping ahead
Again,
to
like
a different time period, if we may. So looking
no.
at no. Well, still speaking of dark side powers, though, Belia Darzu. Now, Catherine, I don't know if you've read the Bane trilogy. She's only briefly mentioned in this story, and she's a Dark Lord of the Sith who she's pretty cool. You would actually like her. She's a shifter. I don't know why that became such a tongue tie for me. Who rose to power in the Sictus Wars with her techno beasts. So she created this like basically like a nanovirus that infected animals so that they became these meta necrons and they grow these metallic tumors and they become like just animal skeletons, but they're all metal. And so Bane goes to Tython because she actually eventually settles on Tython, even though the Jedi are finally the Jedi and they're out of there. And he goes to retrieve her holocron that's known to be on this world, and he comes across all these techno beasts and like has to fight them, but they're not animals anymore. They're just like wicked distortions of what they were. And that's all we really get about her. And I wish we had more. Kyle, do you know anything more about her?
Yeah, techno beasts are just like a theme with the Sith. They love their Sith alchemy.
Yeah, exactly. So now jumping forward another 1,000 years to 1050 BBY, we have Kara Holt, who I love. Kara Holt. I don't know about you guys. I adore her. I think she's fun. She's butt kicking. She takes no nonsense. She's like the perfect Jedi in every way because she's just like she beats all the Sith and saves children and just goes, well, I got to go back into the fight. So see you guys later. You know,
it's nice to see some appreciation. I was just on another show and like Knight Errant came up and they were like, "Oh, it was such a bore," and I was like, "What?"
I hear that
No,
often.
I loved it.
Like I've heard other
Yeah,
people
and
say
like
that, and I'm like, how? Is it
people
because it's
hate
a
reading
female
the book.
character? Like I don't get how they don't enjoy it.
No, I think I haven't even heard like that kind of stuff as far as it just being like a female. I've heard just
I
like
just don't get it.
that
Like,
they just say that she's like a really dry character, and it's just like, well, I mean, like a lot of Jedi are. That's like the reason why, you know, usually we read about ones who kind of step outside of the bounds a little bit.
yeah.
You know, then there's the noble ones, of course, but like a lot of our more interesting, fun stories are definitely like kind of folk who step outside that realm just a smidge.
Yeah.
So a lot of them are just kind of normal. But like it wasn't really, I don't know. I like Carrot, and the world building was incredible. I mean, like look who wrote it.
Yeah, it's
So,
John Jackson Miller. Like, how could you
man,
not enjoy that book?
yeah.
Like, come on, guys.
And there were like Sith fiefdoms.
Yeah.
You know, it was broke up like
the Damonite and the Odinite. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah, when we talked to John Jackson Miller, he said his inspiration were the Russian oligarchs for these Sith. And just kind of how they've created their own little like mini empires, fight amongst each other, and then, you know, fight for scraps. And like I loved the concept of like the head grandmother Sith and having all her children having once killed each other, and now the grandchildren are now also trying to all kill each other. Like
The beat goes on.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like Odeon, Damien, Dramica, Arcadia. I loved Arcadia when they go to that kind of frozen world, and she's just so suave and like, oh, we're gonna be friends, little Jedi, and then imprisons her in that like torture locker. Like, oh, that one, a very harrowing moment. I also really like her relationship with the Bothan spy. I think she was very like a good foil to him, and you know, when she steals his suit and like barely fits in that stealth suit, and he's just like cursing her the whole time, and then finally like kind of gets back at her a little bit. But Yeah. So, what did you think about
Yeah, he
her?
was cool. He was definitely my favorite character in that book. Forgive me.
Yeah. I like
I
Jarrow
thought
as
he was
well.
cool, but Kara was really fun. I like the novel more than the comics, but that's just me. I thought that they really went into Sith culture a lot. And Darknell in particular is kind of like one of those very famous spots in the lore, and the fact that we got a chance to see a lot of that, to the point that like the Sith Overlord in that, like, changed the language of the planet and stuff, and to
Yeah.
see her, like, of all places for her to end up, I was like, this is pretty cool. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I like the story and a lot of it more so than Kara, but I did like her. I do not understand why everybody is so anti Kara.
Yeah,
But
I don't either. Catherine, what do you think about Kara?
I keep saying all these characters are a lot of fun, but it's like that's
But
like
they are.
yeah, they are. Yeah, I love like her tenacity. Like she's just always out there, ready to fight the fight.
Yeah.
And it's such an interesting situation to put her in, of like behind enemy lines with the Sith. And she's, doing her best with the resources that she has. So I
Yeah,
think it's a
exactly.
really concept to explore.
Well, she has 0 resources. Like,
Yeah.
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 So,
It's certainly a situation.
yeah. And takes down everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's awesome. I think, yeah, she needs more recognition. Definitely.
Mhm.
So let's skip ahead a little bit. Not too far in the timeline, but again, this is going back to the Darth Bane books, though. Sorry, Catherine. We can talk about
Okay.
Darsana, but I want to talk about Githany first. Kyle, I adored Githany. Catherine, she's this character who basically kind of lures Darth Bane into like a false everything is okay when she realizes he's like this powerful lord and that he could probably just destroy them all really quickly. Um, and she kind of becomes his master, but doesn't teach him everything. But she was a former Jedi who had taken a lover, and then like diverted to the Sith. And there's one really good line about her that one of the Sith says, and he just said, "I'm surprised the Jedi ever took her in." Like, like that's how much you're like, ooh, like this girl is going to betray everyone, and she works her way around to do it.
That's because the Jedi are willing to see the best in people and give them a chance, unlike the Sith who eat
Yeah,
their young.
yeah, but the
One
Jedi are the
smack.
ones who create a lot of the Sith.
Like,
So like
to be
she was
Sith.
a Jedi and she
They
became a
do.
Sith. So like Jedi do it to themselves. What I'm saying.
Every time.
Yeah. So when she does betray
Sith,
them, sorry, go ahead.
no, Sith just need to be smacked. Sorry, go on.
No,
Yeah.
no, I disagree.
Possibly with a lightsaber.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
have to team me up against me
Smack.
here.
Yep.
You Jedi lovers. She
No, I
does.
love the Sith too, but come on. Anyway,
Yeah,
go on.
don't worry.
Something to just say.
She does die in the end when Bane convinces the Brotherhood of Darkness to use the thought bomb during the
Mhm.
fourth battle of Rusan. Um, and like Lord Khan, like he's just kind of like this twisted Sith Lord, and they go by lords. They don't
He
go
was
by.
a punk.
Yeah, he was, and like they go
Lord
by.
Khan was a punk. They were all punks.
They were. I mean,
I so go with Bane on everything that he was saying. He's just like, these guys don't know anything.
yes.
They're so like caught up in this frat party, and it's just like, just kill them all.
It really is a frat party.
That that sums up a lot of Sith stuff, is they're just a bunch of frat boys. Like,
Yeah.
That's so mean.
Can you imagine like just being like teenage Bane, or somewhere along the way when he was still
Yeah.
in school, and it's just like kids are like, like checking out what they can do, and he's just like, I will murder everyone.
yeah, yeah.
That was
a
probably
little,
him.
a little Sith frat house going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Stop it! I'm just teasing. Go on.
Well, don't worry. They do all die in that thought bomb, and horribly, because a lot of them
Yes.
stay in that stasis bubble, and she gets evaporated because she had the final moment where she goes, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't follow this guy anymore," but she turns to dust when she's escaping. So sad, but she does not end up being his apprentice. Instead, that becomes Darzana, who's our next female we got. And Darzana is the first of the apprentice line of the Banite line. She was first brought up in Darko McCann's The Jedi vs. Sith comics, but and again, Catherine, you really need to read these books. They're Darzana. I think
Yes.
you'd really like her. Like she's
Yes.
just phenomenal.
She sounds interesting.
She's very interesting. You know, she was taken by him when she was like 9 or something, and brutally killed some Jedi because they killed her little animal friend. And justifiably, I probably would have done the same thing in her shoes. And
Yeah, she killed him good too.
yeah, like they were like broken and twisted, and Bane's like, "All right, little girl, you want
Yeah.
to come with me? Like you're my
Yeah, it was
apprentice
after
now." Yeah,
it was after a lot of damage occurred. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
everything was like there was like fire, right? Like it was just kind of like
yeah. Well, the
the
Sith,
wreckage.
the Sith and the Jedi fighting, like there was so much just like darkness released on this world that it changed these animals into like these little creatures that would attack the Jedi. So the Jedi had this whole let's just kill the animals kind of ethic that they started going through, which was really horrible. But thankfully, she kills them. And her next test was to meet Bane because he doesn't actually take her. He's like, "Well, I'm gonna go to this world, Onderon, and I'll see you there." And leaves her on Rusan. So she finds his family in this ship called the Starwig, and it's one of the Jedi soldiers and Bordon and his sons. And she just she goes for a gun and kills one of the sons, and then immediately kills everyone else on the ship. And it's pretty brutal. It's like a little girl mass murdering, and you just gotta get used to it. What do you
Yeah.
what do you think about
Yeah.
when she gets to Onderon? Like I love the scene where like Bane comes flying in on one of those Duxton kind of creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
'cause like
love that scene in
it's
particular.
so cool. Like because Bane, he doesn't actually land on Onderon. He flies from another world
Yeah.
on a winged creature after he finds a holocron and gets covered in the. Oh, sorry, he doesn't find a holocron there. He gets covered in the Orbilis. Eventually, when she's older, you know, she's used as a spy, but still, you know, she kind of like infiltrates little groups, and then she discovers this guy Hen who really has an interest in like Sith artifacts and becomes like obsessed with the fact that she's a Sith and tests her, and she uses him to fight against Bane, but of course that fails, and she swears allegiance again to Bane. Later, she finds a Jedi who was a former Jedi, actually. This guy's kind of funny. Seth Halen was a Jedi who decided to use his powers to get rich from casinos and just be like a general womanizer and kind of a dipshit. And she's like, maybe he'll be my apprentice because he's, you know, kind of leaning on the dark side, and takes him in. But of course, that doesn't work out. And she meets Darth Cognis, who is like a formidable opponent. And like what we discussed earlier with Corinthia, like she just kind of sits back and waits to see which between Bane and Xana is going to survive, because Cognis honestly could kill either of them very easily. Do you remember what species she is, Kyle? I totally forgot.
Yeah, she's the one that 16 is the horns.
Yeah. Horns.
Iktaki? No. Yeah, Iktaki.
Ichtaki? Yeah, something like. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then of course, just a little fun fact about Xana. The Darth name was given to her by Abel Pina. And in one of the General Grievous stories that he wrote for Star Wars Insider, Grievous actually inherits her lightsaber. Somehow. We don't know, because I haven't read that story. So, moving on. Okay. We're going to skip ahead now a couple thousand years to Vergier. So let's talk some Fosh. Kyle, if you want to lead off about Vergier.
Yeah, Vergier changed, like and Matthew Stover with her changed the entire theory on the Force. Vergier was awesome. That's like a whole conversation that we could have. It's just as far as like the philosophy of the Force based on the book Traitor,
Yes.
where she is torturing Jason. So, but otherwise though, Vergier is kind of introduced to readers as far as being this captive slash just familiar. So not really. They don't. It's just she just seems off-putting. They don't really quite know. She's just like a familiar to the Yuzon Vong when they invaded the galaxy during the New Jedi Order era.
Yeah. So
And then
we first hear about her in
as Jason.
Rogue Planet.
Yeah, and that's going back. She was a Jedi who kind of ventured out and then got wrapped up into some things. Yeah, so now there's a cut.
Yeah.
And then other events occurred in which she eventually ended up in the character Yuzon Vong.
Yeah.
And yeah, so she effectively left left our galaxy.
Yeah, taken by the Far Outsiders, as they were kind of coined at that time.
Yes, when she left, she left Skyriver Galaxy. So.
I think a lot of what shaped her is her master as well, Thracio Lim, was there during like when she was hatched, and what's going on? And her master like got married several times, which I think is kind of funny. Mostly for the fact that like the Jedi were really against it, being like, you shouldn't be getting married every 10 seconds, but you are. So like I don't know if that influenced Vergier to have kind of a different perspective, because you know already her master was different in that sense. What do you think about that?
I'm sorry, I was responding to something here real quick. Can you say that one more time?
Just kind of the relationship with her master and how her master's tendency to get married and like have attachments, how that could have influenced Vergier into the character that she became, and then her darkness of the Force.
Do you think that's what caused it?
I think that influenced it for sure. Like if she had a regular boring Jedi, she probably wouldn't be so like abstract and out there. So, what do you think about her death scene in the Battle of Ebok 9, protecting Jason?
With the tears.
Yeah. Oh, and the tears. Ooh. Yeah. You wanna say anything about that, Catherine?
Yeah, bring Catherine into this because this is
we're getting into Mara territory.
Yeah.
I have very complicated feelings with that whole like part of Mara's story. But in terms of a way to kind of, you know, like I like where they went with that. It's an interesting thing. That's yeah.
With Mara being sick for like the first not half, but the first large amount of the New Jedi Order.
Yeah, I kind of like, you know, if I was in charge, I think it would have been really interesting to have Luke be the one who's sick instead, because like I think we can all agree that he sort of has like this rise to godhood over the course of the EU. Like,
yeah,
it's just, you know, it's inevitable. Like he's the main character, like it's gonna happen. So it would have kind of like put the pause button on that. And I also think that like as interesting as it was to have Mara have to learn to like accept help kind of thing with her illness, I think it also would have been interesting to like have her like it would be a growth of compassion for her if she had to like deal with Luke being the one who was sick.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily going to say it's good or bad, but it certainly was a choice to have it be like cured through her birth of Ben Skywalker as well. Like it was a choice. I don't know. I have complicated feelings about the whole thing that we don't really have time to get into. And I don't really even have like a thesis to this. It's just kind of it was definitely a product of its time.
Yeah.
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 You really didn't like the sickness angle.
I think it's interesting. It's just I don't know. I have complicated feelings about it. Yeah.
there had to be because I mean it was a retcon, so to speak, but like, you know, Nominor, the whole introduction, all of that,
Yeah.
the manipulation, the fact that Vergier's tears were the cure for Coomb spores, weren't they? Coomb spores, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
COOMB.
Yeah.
Coomb spores. I'm pretty sure. Because I hated it because Mara was sick and like the entire time, and it made me appreciate her more when she returned. But yeah, so there's we have to come back. We could do an entire like half hour on for him. We can go further than that on Vergier alone.
Yeah.
We should, and we all love Matthew Stover, so we should just kind of like do like a pause or not pause. Forgive me, but like a little spot on Vergier. Again, that novel changed everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And people say, she got retconned into becoming a Sith, and it's like I still agree with like the decision they made, and I think that it's just like, because I know that a lot of people say that like it undoes what was done with Matthew Stover, and it's just like I don't think so. It's clear that like she, that she is clearly has evil tendencies. Like look what she does to Jason.
Well, she tortures him.
Regardless of like the enlightenment that you're trying to get to, it's just like I mean, we all remember Deadpool, right? And she just like puts him in the chamber where he can't breathe, just breathes enough to stay alive. So he's like, ah! And it's like, essentially, that's like what's going on with the embrace of pain. Like,
well,
so
what's twisted
if you're willing to do that to any creature, I mean, come on. I'm sorry, what?
Well, and you think about the embrace of pain, like Jason kept it and used it on Ben, and when someone gets tortured and victimized, sometimes they unfortunately become that same kind of person. And he really did with this case with, wanting to use that device and torturing his poor his cousin, and like, which is just crazy. Like, Jason.
Yeah.
We got a lot of things to say about Jason. Actually, you talking about her tears, it just brings me a little thought about Greek mythology again. So Medusa, she's one of those characters that is obviously always misunderstood because she was a rape victim that was turned into a Gorgon, or she was a Gorgon but turned into the snake-headed Gorgon that we know her. But her name actually means savior, and when you take her blood, it actually will heal you. And her blood was given to one of Apollo's children, who's kind of like the god of medicine, and he starts saving people with her blood. And that just kind of, I don't know, it just for a moment it made me think about Medusa and how she's this character who is put into the situation and like changed, not by her own any of her faults. And it's kind of like with Vergier, like she's forced to become a Vong, basically, like a toy for them, and then lives with them for 50 odd years until she can come back, and at least like she kind of held them off for a little while, but to a point, So moving on. So
yeah, we have to return for this.
All right. Speaking of returning, I'm gonna have to tap out. I got some stuff I got to get ready for tomorrow, but this has been lovely. Thanks for having me on. I know you guys are gonna go for like probably another hour.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I also have to like get going here soon. So maybe we'll get toward the end here.
Well, do you want to talk a little bit about Mara before we leave, just so you get some stuff about Mara?
I talked a little bit about it earlier, but I love how complex she is, and I love that like she's not any one thing. And I love how well, like, what an amazing narrative foil she is for Luke. Because they're really like, he needs somebody like her around to not be nice because he's too nice. Like he's also tempered death, but like, it's I love their relationship. Like they balance well off of each other. And I really wish like So Timothy Zahn was writing a like Skywalker family road trip book when Mara was killed off, and like, you know, because he wasn't told in advance really that she was going to be killed off. Um, and after how much fun the Luke and Ben road trip was in Fate of the Jedi, I wish I could like see Timothy Zahn's notes from that or something, because I feel like that would have been such a fun book. Um, but yeah, I love her. She's great. I I love doing her costume. I talked a little bit earlier about the Saber Guild performance that I do with her, and I just like, it's so like, I don't know, I feel like the word empowering is overused sometimes, but like I just feel so great when I do that show. And it's because the show is really just about like Mara overcoming like just really like, you know, she's already defeated Palpatine's lost command, but she still like is dealing with a lot of stuff internally about it. And it's just such a like powerful thing to perform that. Um, yeah, she's really great, and I think that it's rare in any franchise or any story that we get such a complex female character. So I really appreciate her the way that she is.
Yeah. How did you feel about her death scene? You feel it was at least written well, or
No, because like I agree with Timothy Zahn on this, because like I talked to him at a convention about it once, you know, and he said, you know, like his I don't want to put words into his mouth. I don't want to say like displeasure or anything like that, because I don't want to like put those words into his mouth. But like what he said to me was that when Mara Jade decides to kill somebody, that person is dead. She wouldn't hesitate.
yeah,
And I really think that like with how brutally she was trained by the Empire, that she would not fall for Jason, you know, like projecting Ben's face over his own so he can stab her in the
yeah.
ankle with a poison dart.
I didn't
Like
like
that's
that
just
either.
not, yeah, like, you know, I think I do like the situation of the reason that she was going after Jason is because like this is, you know, like she's having like a trauma spiral basically, because she sees like with what happened to her, and she's seeing signs of that of what's happening to Ben, and you know, because Jason is torturing him and you know like manipulating him and all that kind of stuff, and so she's freaking out. um and like that setup is good, but just the execution of it was just,
Yeah.
I'm not a fan.
She definitely
Like,
behaves like any mother would. Like, I love that she doesn't do any kind of monologuing. Like, she just goes in for the kill.
yeah, yes, yeah, like, and it's I think honestly it would have been like, I know that the story wasn't done with Jason yet, but it would have been really interesting, the repercussions, like if she had been the one to kill him, like within the family, like that would dramatically change her relationship with Leia. You know, even if Leia, you know, understood that this was necessary, like just there would still be like, you know, you still can't get over, you know, if somebody killed your kid, like even if they deserved it, like, you know, and they
Yeah.
were messing with your kid kind of thing. Like it's just, it would have been really interesting to explore.
Yeah. I mean, he did try to shoot her down at one point, Leia, that is.
Yeah,
So, I mean, she
When
kind of was
when he went
expecting his death. Like,
yeah.
when he went to Mara's funeral,
ugh.
that was
Oh man.
All of us are just
yeah.
like cringe. Like, yeah,
Yeah, it makes your blood boil, huh?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
I'm glad he died.
on and yeah, and on that note, like, you know, Mara Jade is quite the women, or the woman of legends to
Mhm.
bow out on for my time in this here, I think too, because it's getting a little bit late. I've been up since 5:30 this morning, so I'm probably also going to come to a close here with you, Lisa.
Oh,
I know there's
okay.
more notes.
I
I
have
know we almost got them
3
all.
pages still. We only managed to do 1.
Yeah, but we
Maybe we
covered a
need a
lot of
part
ground.
two.
We could do
Maybe
a
we
part 2.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we covered a lot of ground and a whole lot of awesome characters.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll
at least
do,
up until the New Republic era. So
yeah,
that's not too bad.
like a quick shout out, you know, like Izan Izard, Lumaya, Natasi Dalla, Ayala, Murix, Ta Niathal, Jaina, Christina Lobi, Tahiri, you know, Vistara. We did talk about Vistara. Mirta Gev, we didn't really chat her. And we definitely didn't chat about 10L, who is a fan favorite for all of us, and the Hapen Queen.
Speaking
Yeah.
of 10L, I just want to have one little like we were robbed kind of thing of by, you know, things ending.
Yeah.
I forever want
Oh,
Alana Solo as like a teenager riding her
yes.
Nexu into battle.
Yes.
Like, can you
Yes.
imagine how awesome that would be? Like,
We were gonna get it. You know we were.
yes.
Yeah.
It was already in the mix, you know, and as just like a young Nexu, like getting out there and getting some teeth on, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was happening. It was gonna
She's
be great.
beauty. She's grace. She'll eat
Yeah.
your expletive face. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Well, we have so much that we lost out on. But at least we have so much that we have at this point.
Yes.
And like, look at all these amazing characters that, you know, we can talk about and like just sit for hours and I tire you guys out. Like, I'm still like, I drank coffee. Let's go. And I don't drink coffee. So.
Oh my gosh! If I would have known, I would have done all that.
Well, I did send you the photos of my notes, but you know me, I always go overboard.
Yeah, it's okay though. It was a great episode, Lee.
Well, we can always do
So-
a part 2 some other time. So,
Mhm.
but Katherine, thank you so much for joining us
Yes.
again.
Thanks
And
for having me.
if you could share with the listeners where they can get a hold of you and what more to come with LegendsCon.
Yeah. So the LegendsCon social media is at legends_con on Twitter and Instagram, and at legendsconsortium, all one word, on Facebook and Tumblr. My own social media, I'm Martian_Mara on Instagram and Twitter. I don't really use either of them. Personally, I spend time managing other accounts and don't really do much with my own. The Martian that's my day job. I'm a planetary scientist. I do stuff with Mars. So yes, Martian Mara, cute little name. But yeah, like I said, I don't really use either of those very much.
Yeah, you shocked
Instagram
me
is
the other
mostly
day
pictures of my
posting
cat.
something.
I know. I posted a video of my cat. Like
Yeah.
that's what Instagram mostly is for me, is cat pictures and occasionally cosplay pictures.
Yeah.
So
I get that.
hurrah. Yep.
Hoorah!
And
That's me.
Kyle, do you want to say where you can
Yeah,
get a hold of?
sure. You can find me at Darn Tarn on Twitter, or you can find me at Left Hand Path 23 on Instagram.
Perfect. And everyone, you can always get a hold of
and a
me.
slew of other things too.
Yeah.
What about we'll mention the consortium at the end. I'm sorry, Lisa, as you were.
Well, you can get a hold of both Kyle and I through Legends Library at Gmail or podcast@gmail.com. Also on Facebook and on Twitter. I do try to stay up on Twitter. I don't always though, because
Such a pool of
Because
hate.
it's a
This
pool of
Twitter.
hate, and I,
It's a completely functioning website now in the
Yeah.
past few months. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I will say this, I did block Elon Musk because it was trending and I went, I'm going to do it. So not like he ever paid attention to this show, but you know, in case he ever did.
Yeah. Yeah.
He doesn't seem
Even
like,
though you have Star League.
yeah, I've got
Right.
Star League. I keep calling it, what's it in, with Arnold Schwarzenegger? I just blanked on it. Skynet. I keep calling it Skynet. And like people
Yeah.
are like, you have what? I'm like, I have Skynet, you know, Elon Musk, and they're like, what? I'm like, I don't know why, it's just in my mind. Like, so anyways. But yeah, you can get a hold of us through legendslibrarypodcast@gmail.com. And everyone, thanks again for joining in and listening to this episode. Please share your thoughts on, you know, your great favorite female characters who kick butt. And we'll be back for more coming soon. And I'm Lisa.
And I'm Kyle.
And I'm Katherine.
And may the force be with you. Bye. That concludes this edition of Legends Library Podcast. To join the discussion, email us at legendslibrarypodcast@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter or Discord at Legends Library. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for informational or entertainment purposes only. Official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights to Disney and respective copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Legends Library Podcast, otherwise indicated. Legends Library. There's always a bit of truth in legends.